What's the smallest amount of power you've seen go to someone's head? Many years ago I worked for a large tire store. My manager told me I was moving too slow and ordered me to go run laps around the store. I openly laughed at him and said not a chance. He threw a fit. I got his boss involved. I did not run laps, but I did get a written apology. Public school bus driver for a poor farming area. Middle school aged. We weren't allowed to talk even at a murmur, turn our heads, read or do homework. The ride was an hour each way. Any infractions he would pull over and scream at us, and usually give any kids involved and whoever was next to them a multiple day bus ban. Rural, poor area far from the school meant a lot kids just couldn't go to school those days. Our bus was always late because he pulled over 4-5 times a day. He would make personal stops to his home cause frick you. That's why, 20 years later and still a hard contender for biggest loser I've ever met. I worked at Blockbuster. One of the employees, Melanie, got a key holder promotion over me. We didn't really like each other but it wasn't a blood feud. One day the manager calls me to sub in for someone who called out sick. It's my off day. I'm at college and don't have my uniform. I tell the manager this and she says I need a body here to work the register. Come in naked. Just get here ASAP. I show up in normal clothes and I've been working with another key holder for about 6 hours. Melanie comes in to rent something because it's her day off and flips the frick out. She goes back to the office and proceeds to write me up for failing to comply to dress code and so on. She then proceeds to try and make me sign it then and there, all while off the clock. She is still hourly. She does this for the next 2 hours until the store closes. No dice. I tell her to get fricked. Manager comes in the next morning to a crap storm. Melanie gets written up for working off the clock. Tells her I acted on a direct order from her and she needs to get off her fricking high horse. First night I made one of our bar backs into a bartender. He started bossing around other bar backs. Not like asking for help, but like yelling orders at them. Dude really showed his colors. He didn't last. Amazing he woke treat them that way considering he had literally just been one of them. Alright, so I was a PA, production assistant, the lowest of the low on a film set, for a Kelsey Grammer submarine comedy called Down Periscope. One guy was given the meaningless title of key PA and decided he was going to help wrangle background extras for this big exterior shot we're working on. Now everyone, including the extras, knew that the camera was probably framed in a medium close-up on the principal actors, who were doing a scene way down at the end of a dock. Nonetheless, key PA guy took it upon himself to start blocking out whole entire scenes of these background extras. I'm talking crowds of people. You guys over there, your families are the sailors who haven't seen your husbands in 6 months and you run from the bus to the fence. But you guys are cadets who get in the way and you guys are arguing about which car has the right of way. Then all you kids start clapping because you see a big doggy pulling his owner so fast he trips over the leash. Like second unit on a Michael fricking Bay movie. He had these people doing his made up little scene over and over and over. He'd yell at them, tell them they did it wrong and reset them back to 1 to start over. Madness. I walked by the guy and noticed this was going on and said, you know the camera is pointed the other direction, right? He just laughed and said, I know. Software developer here. We had a guy appointed as the change manager in charge of enforcing controls and coding standards. He was not a programmer. He would regularly reject changes because he didn't like how variables were named. Like he would want cust count renamed to CSTMRCNT. What an MSVCNT. When I played Halo 2, I joined a fairly large clan that had some pretty cool people in it. We did a lot together and every once in a while, they would elect a new forum moderator officer to run the ranks. One day, they elect this kid who sounded like he was 11 to be new officer. He seemed pretty down to earth, but the very next day, he gets home from school and starts kicking every single person from the clan who just even slightly brushed him the wrong way. It was so bad that the leader, who was on vacation in Hawaii, had to log on a library computer in order to strip all powers from this kid. The kid's reasoning was that he didn't get picked for a baseball game at school and was angry the rest of the day. The kid's reasoning was that he didn't get picked for a baseball game at school and was angry the rest of the day. That's probably why they don't pick him. Anyone holding a megaphone. The ability to make your voice louder around a crowd of people gives people a 10x ego boost. DBs equal power. Kind of a common thing among a lot of people in arguments. The shoutier one gets heard. Years ago, while working at a pizza place, our manager had to leave on a family emergency and left a girl in charge until one of the other shift runners could get there, and he lived about 45 minutes away. In that 45 minutes, this girl who was left in charge actually called one of her friends and hired her, saying she was the manager now, wrote me up for putting too much cheese on a pizza, and actually told one of the drivers he was fired because she didn't like his attitude. When the shift runner got there to take over, this girl also told him not to worry about it and she had things under control. End result, her friend was not hired. My write-up for using too much cheese was torn up. The fired driver, who never left the parking lot, kept his job, and she quit a few days later because we were unprofessional and the manager played favorites. I lived in a village for a few months and one of the richer farmers' wives got the job of running the community center. She put out a big placard with a picture of herself and titled herself CEO as well as on business cards. Started wearing business suits and banning people she didn't like the look of. The building was the size of a small apartment and hosted a knitting and Bible club for senior citizens. I live in a small town. I can see this happening. Used to work with a group of other interns in an office. For some reason I still don't understand, they decided to promote one of us over the others. Their job was basically just to schedule who was doing what and when. That's it. Only took 2 weeks before we found out she was keeping detailed notes on all of our mistakes and taking them to upper management. They promptly told her to calm the frick down and decided to do away with position. She made a lot of enemies that day. She had ambitions of working at the company and was trying to make us all look bad. I think that one may have backfired on her. Honestly, that's good upper management. My 6th grade self got chosen for the prestigious role of classroom clipboard holder. As soon as I was chosen, I go to the front of the room with the teacher, pen and clipboard ready to mark down whoever speaks. With my eyes gazing left to right searching for a chatterbox, I hear the smallest noise come from Emily in the back. I think frick Emily and announce to the class that's one and write her name down, even though the poor girl probably just had a cough. As soon as this happens, Mr. Weiss takes the clipboard away and tells me to be quiet. My power was gone. I was quiet for the rest of the class. We had one especially loud class in middle school that the teacher never seemed to be able to quiet down. She was out for a few days and the sub just waltzed in and said, "Heard you guys have a problem with being far too loud. I'ma tell you right now, you're gonna keep your frickin' mouth shut." A girl I worked with was promoted to assistant manager at Little Caesars because she was the only one there that was 18. She went from an okay worker to not doing anything and making my time there a living heck. I eventually quit and was asked to come back after she was fired. 5 years later, I got the random Facebook message from her, apologizing for being such an butthole during that time. Fair play to her for apologizing. I once worked part-time doing inventory. We would go to stores like the Bay, Whole Foods, and literally count everything on the shelves with our fancy dancy machines. This one man was given leadership of the home section. Now he wasn't actually given any management power, made the same amount as everyone else, all that. Just literally he was told, okay, you and these people are going to the home section. Divvy it up. However, he went full power trip mode, micromanaging how I counted towels, patrolling the aisles, watching us all, yelling unnecessarily. From that day on, he was known as King Tut. Guy in our JROTC program thought since he had a higher rank than everyone else he was essentially a hardened combat veteran. Yelled at people for talking in class, looking at their phones, stupid crap like that. Lost his position and got suspended because he threw his ex-girlfriend into a wall at max speed. This girl was special education, had some kind of disorder with her legs so she couldn't walk without a walker. Everyone, even the teachers, hated him after that. I used to work front desk at a salon. There was a slightly more experienced position directly above mine. Basically the only difference being that they could count the drawer and knew how to get into the safe. She once banned me from taking my purse with me to the bathroom with no reason backing it, when in reality I did that because I'm not a super huge fan of leaving my purse unattended. And, yeah, no, tampons. Well, now I'm a stylist there and she kisses my butt. As a part of her job, the girl who does payroll also tracks vacation days. The company I worked for was small and family owned. They really didn't care how many days you took off, as long as your stuff got done, or you could work extra hours take stuff home. No big. It's the dang Spanish Inquisition with this girl though. We even created a system of letting each other know, us lower people anyway, when we'd be off using just colors and markings on the calendar, because if it was written anywhere she'd find it and be a psycho about tracking it. She even took 2 hours of my vacation time because I left early to go to the airport. I was salaried, yet somehow she went to Mexico for 10 days and never used any vacation time. When my brother was in grade 2, he went around the playground during recess on the first day and found a kid and asked him, "Hey kid, what grade are you in?" He said grade 1. My brother replied, "Ha, I'm in grade 2," and ran off. My math teacher was escorted out of the building shortly after he told my entire AP calculus class he dated a past student, and if Sarah, an attractive junior, would keep denying him he would drop all our grades an entire letter grade. I have no idea what he was thinking. No one but Sarah knew what he was talking about. My middle school basketball coach. Dude worked at a Jiffy Lube during the day, but at 3 PM he transformed into fricking Bobby Knight and profanely gifted us with all his basketball knowledge. Promotion and the military. You get to see who people really are. Which makes me realize my buddy who says if I have to pull rank I've lost the argument is that much more respectable. My 5-year-old won the kindergarten Olympics. He was a complete shat for about a week. There's a few easy ways to humble a 5-year-old. This is so stupid and it still pisses me off to this day. So my company ran a contest where the winner got $100. I won. No strings attached. Use the $100 bucks to get whatever you want. The thing I wanted most was new office supplies. A new pair of scissors, a new tape dispenser, stuff like that. I made a list of items and approached my coworker. You see, she was in charge of our company POs, and if I went through her I could get $120 bucks worth of office supplies for $100. $100 even, down to the penny, including shipping. No, I don't like the colors, she said simply. I thought she was joking. Her office supplies were covered in minion stickers. I think we can comfortably rule out aesthetic appeal as a reasonable denial. Also, it's not her money. It's not for her desk. The rules of the contest said I could buy anything, even alcohol or a Visa gift card. There were no stipulations as to what color stapler I was allowed to get. I assumed she told a joke and it just fell flat. A week goes by. I ask her what the status of my order was. Number. I'm not going to run that through. I think it's tacky, and I think it's stupid that you won. Dot. I bet if I ordered fricking minion crap she would have approved it in a heartbeat. Wish I could have a nice revenge story, but I just ended up using my money for groceries instead. Should have mailed her $100 of glitter sealed in a duct taped box. I was real young and got a job detailing cars at a Chevy dealership. The only other dude was like 29 and was telling me, very proudly, how overqualified he was for the job we did, which was washing, cleaning the cars and putting them back on the lot. I guess when he was told about being overqualified for that work, he didn't pick up on how sarcastic they were. I was an admin on a custom BF3 server once. Best hour of my life. The upperclassmen at my university would proctor exams the freshmen would take. I wasn't there for this, but my friend tells the story of how he and Louis were the two proctors while the professor was in his office down the hall. Apparently, in an effort to prevent cheating, Louis brought a clipboard and noted when and where each student went to the bathroom, where meaning that he would force students to use different bathrooms. The justification being that I suppose they could leave secret notes or something. So once the bathrooms on the first, second, and 8th floors each had one person go there, he made a kid use a bathroom in the building next to ours. Kid complains to the other proctor, who grabs the professor, who kicks Louis from the job. Probably to my own head. When I was about 8 years old I was asked by my teacher, because I was being well behaved I assume, to stand by the whiteboard whilst she was talking about something and write the names of people who were acting out on the board. I went mad with power and wrote people's names down who just looked at me funny. I used to work with this lady who didn't actually get a promotion. She was just put in second in charge if the team leader was out. She made sure that everyone knew that she was in charge. She handing out assignments left and right. The only reason she was second in charge was to make the team leader look good. People who get involved with the HOA. I used to work in escrow and there was one HOA that had 6 different paint colors that were approved. That was it. One guy painted every wall of his house a different color of the 6 approved colors and told them to frick off. That is the level of petty I aspire to be. I used to hang around on a forum for erotica writers, and my god, you'd think the mods were minor deities the way they acted. It was a constant bashing of newbies for daring to ask questions, and being super condescending to anyone who wasn't in their little clique. One of the girls actually managed to get a publishing deal, a small imprint, but still, it's a big frickin' deal when you're a writer, and the mod banned her for some trumped up reason which everyone knew was basically horrific jealousy. Newsflash, buddy, we're all self-publishing stories about dongs. Let's try and keep some perspective. 8. I don't hang out in writers' forums anymore. Substitute raid leader in Rift, an MMORPG like World of Warcraft. Normal raid leader was going to be gone for 1 week, and appoints our tank to lead the 20 of us through a dungeon we had beaten many times before. We start out by wiping twice due to a new player, younger girl, handling the part our leader normally did. No big deal, normal learning curve, right? The tank, I'll call him Napoleon Jr., decides the best course of action is to use every 4-letter word he knows and berates her in voice chat, humiliating her in front of the whole raid. She gets emotional, and he just ramps it up higher. Whole raid starts telling him to knock it off, and he starts kicking people from the raid. After about 10-15 minutes of this, most of the rest of the raid team starts dropping out of the group, and begins reforming without him. At this point, he goes absolutely ballistic, screaming so loud and furiously that I can't help but think he was bipolar or something. We fill his spot with a friend of the guild, clan, and Napoleon stays in voice chat cursing us and trying to interfere with our raid. We didn't have mod rights to kick him. His last words before we switched voice chat servers was "I'm F-king in charge this week." Someone leading a group of volunteers tried to yell at people as if they were property. B. I don't have to be here. I chose to help you. Peace out and go frick yourself. In elementary school, I was on the safety patrol, which basically meant that I stood at the busy intersection alongside an adult crossing guard, and when he went into the street to stop traffic, I would let the little kids know it was safe to cross. I also told other kids not to run, etc. Well, one day, a girl a grade below me walked up the hill from the elementary school to the intersection, instead of taking the stairs. So I grabbed her by the arm and marched her back to the stairs, and told her she had to take the stairs. Proto-fascist. Right here. I got in trouble for it. I once let a kid hold distribute push pins to my other students to pin up their posters. I had to step in and break up a fight because she refuses to let one girl have red pins because she didn't deserve them. Being the one with the TV remote control, I have the power now. There is this lady at the post office who insists I show multiple forms of it and looks at me like I'm a criminal every time I try to mail something, as if the first thing I'd do with a stolen credit card is try to mail a $6 package. My GF works at a Canada Post retail outlet and is always getting grief from customers about its stuff, except it's legally required, and if they don't dot the I's and cross the T's they can get into serious legal trouble for things like money laundering and funding terrorists and the like. Girl I was waitressing with, Justice 2, was going to be a manger but wasn't a manager yet. She flipped out because I had a contraction and sat down a minute, screamed in front of patrons that she was my supervisor, she was better than me, and if I didn't like it I could fricking leave. I clocked out and quit on the spot. Today at the gas station I was looking at the minis behind the counter trying to decide what I wanted. The lady at the counter said she needed my ID. I told her I wasn't ready yet. She said she needed my ID in her hands before she could tell me prices of anything. I said I never asked the price, I'm just looking. I can look without handing you my ID. She said she needs my ID for me to look at the bottles of alcohol behind the counter. Her life must be great. I set it on the counter so she could look at it and she took my ID and put it behind the counter. At that point I told her to give it back now and I left. Freaking weird. The captain aka coach's kid on my 4th grade hockey team Ran into him in high school and we were trying to figure out where we knew each other from. I eventually said, "Oh, you were on my hockey team in 4th grade." His response years later, "Your hockey team? Wow, that's funny. It was my hockey team." The person who's about to choose someone and duck goose. Everyone in that spot knows that the person he's about to tap is panicking, and everyone in that spot revels in that power. Back in school, when the teacher would line us up and stand in the back of the line, the kid at the front was a T about being line leader. In my USAF time, there were 2 ranks for E4, senior airman and sergeant. I was a senior airman, and a guy came into my crew spouting orders at my team. I walked aside with him, out earshot of my guys, and asked him not to interfere with my work crew. He held up his sleeve and pointed to the star on his stripes. I made staff SGT before him and he was always scared to death I was going to pay him back. Frick you, Gary. Had a dude in tech school tell some chick, "Listen here, airman basic," while pointing at his mosquito wings. Childish. You have been visited by the safety doggo. Subscribe and you will be safe from all danger for the next 24 hours. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.